Welcome, everybody, to the My Practice, My Business podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rob Thorup, and I'm accompanied here with my sweetheart, Tracy. And we've got a fun podcast for you today because we're going to do 2023 in review. And I dragged her down here into my little studio, and I said, hey, we need to do a podcast. And she's like, not like we don't have enough going on, right, hun?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. So we're looking forward to this little review, and we begin our podcast right here.
Welcome, all of you fantastic dental podcast listeners, to the My Practice, My Business Dental Podcast Show, where we help dentists profit and thrive with excerpts from the clinical business of dentistry training here at My Practice, My Business. We'll be addressing and answering questions with current trends dentists and their teams face each and every day in their pursuit of this wonderful career we call dentistry. And now the host of our show, the clinical director and president at My Practice, My Business, Dr. Rob Thorup.
Well, honey, 2023 has been a really fun, exciting year for us. For all of you who don't know, we are moving into a new facility in South Jordan on about 112th South and Redwood Road, and we're looking forward to our very first training here in the month of January, which is our team training is already filled. It's kind of exciting to, we've 2.5 times the size of our training facility, and we're already booking it. So go for it.
I love. We've been planning this for years now, so we knew exactly what we wanted, how we wanted it laid out, and the fact that we can see double the amount of people we normally train is fantastic.
Yeah, especially, so we've got, of course, a team training, which all of you clients out there know is the biggest bang for your buck, and then we have the advanced business training that you have to go through team training first. And everybody who goes through the advanced business training gets to use our software, My Dental Stats, which we are rolling out version 2 in Kona, Hawaii, which is where our advanced training is being held this year. Probably it's going to be our last year out in Kona because for our new facility, it's really, really nice and it's very state-of-the-art. Then, of course, we have the essential front office training. Those are our 3 flagship trainings. And then, of course, we have the CEREC Design Stain and Glaze course, which people are going to be able to see on big screens how to stain and glaze properly to be able to match colors and not have to send stuff off to the lab. I mean, honey, I can't remember the last time I actually sent something off to the lab.
I don't either. That's a good point.
Yeah, all my crown and bridge, crowns on implants, everything. It's been absolutely amazing. It's amazing what CEREC can do.
And what's really fun for me is we finally get to really market our business lecture series. This is our monthly lecture series for clients and non-clients. It's once a month, 2 hours in the evening on Thursday nights. So I am super excited to get that going.
Our live attendees get to be fed. All of you on Zoom, you'll have to feed yourselves a TV dinner or something. And then, but it's, yeah, this has been a big hit that we rolled out last year in the fall, and again, it's for anybody that wants to attend. And we talk on business topics that are just mission critical to what we do in dentistry, which actually leads us into those are the 5 component trainings that we have, in addition to the introductory course that people can watch online also. But and the CEREC Design Stain and Glaze course, typically. We let Patterson Dental fill those for us. We don't go out and actively market those, and it really helps people who have CEREC technology or any CAD/CAM technology, but especially CEREC. We love CEREC. But it helps them out. But our company, My Practice, My Business, we have a practice, we have a business. And I want to talk about just a variety of topics that Tracy and I are going to bounce off of each other, and I hope that you guys enjoy this as much as we enjoyed kind of putting it together on a spur of the moment. And just, you've got us really candid and live right now, so just in the studio. But I want to start out with lessons learned in 2023, and actually throughout many years. But there's a vicious cycle that I have witnessed in dentistry for over 30 years. And it goes something like this. The dentist complains about wages, or the team complains about wages. You guys ever complain about your wages? Or, I really want to do a survey, honey, just in the general public. How much do you think dentists make? And then I want to ask the question, how much do you
really make?
How much should they make? What do you think they make, and what should they make? And I think a lot of, as I've talked to a lot of people think that, we make, 400, 500,000 a year. And in reality, that's what, in the state of Utah, Western U.S., when I say Western, I'm talking about the Rocky Mountain states, the Midwest, the different areas of the country that aren't really, the cost of living is not super high. 400,000 or 500,000 a year is what dentists should make, period. That should be our gross income. But is it? So it's like everybody complains about these wages, and then they seek out consultants who simply teach them to run faster, put systems in place, run harder.
I think that's what bothers me the most, because these consultants are not familiar with the contracts, they're not familiar with state law. And so what can they do really other than tell an office, cram the schedule? Because they think that those margins, or lack thereof, that these doctors are getting, the only way that you can increase them is by increase the people coming in. And that means possibly manipulating patients. And that's where it drives me insane.
The other thing that I see along those lines is they don't understand business profitability. But I'm probably jumping ahead on our topics here. So then the team gets burned out because they're working their guts out. Hygienists are seeing double columns. And it's like, you take them from $35, $40 an hour. I'll pay you $45 an hour if you see double column. And then the hygienist's like, oh, yeah, make more. And then they get into it for a little while, and then they're burned out because they've been working their guts out. And then, go ahead. Huh?
Well, and then they turn around and say, well, if I'm working double hard, shouldn't I get double the wages?
Shouldn't I be making 70,
right?
$80 an hour? It just makes sense to them. And I mean, it's just mathematically not true, but, and then then the lack of business training damages practices. And this is one of my pet peeves, hence the name of our company, My Practice, My Business. Every dentist out there knows what a practice is, but not every dentist understands the business concepts. And even then we're like, oh, we understand business concepts. And quite honestly, not to pat my back, but I've been ahead of the game on the business concepts for years. And folks, I'm learning every single month. Something jumps out at me. Of course, my sweet wife, who holds an MBA, she lets me know it all the time. Anyway, she, it's like, she schools me, she teaches me, she helps me understand certain concepts. And it's like, not every dentist out there gets to, have a Tracy in their practice, So it's kind of except the ones that have gone through our training.
I was going to say, I want to train multiple people to help
you're
out
at their
like that.
You're at the beck and call. Every one of our clients know that we answer our phones for them anytime. So this lack of business training, it damages. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about, docs, you and I weren't business trained. And so we're making business decisions that don't have business fundamentals or foundations on it. And then, of course, our front office team members. Trace, this is where we have just pulled the hair out of our head, because we see office manager extraordinaires take and think that, oh, I know more about the patient. I know more about the business. We can't possibly charge our patients more money. And they're conditioning your patient continually for free dentistry, but they're making decisions that aren't based on any business concepts, which are losing your practice thousands and thousands of dollars every month. And I do mean that. We see that all the time. And
they are putting themselves in a position where they're able to threaten, or they think they can threaten the doctor into backing off when the doctor tries to implement these business concepts.
We're going to do it my way, or I'm leaving the practice.
And these patients will leave with me.
And that's how it's going to happen.
These are my patients.
Yeah,
my patients will leave.
That
We've heard that before.
Yeah.
We've all heard that before.
And then dentists, and so this combination of these practices, taking PPO plans. Welcome to the PPO industry, you guys. It's crossed over $120 billion a year now. Truth be told, I remember back in the day when it was 70 billion and 80 billion, and it's a mega $billion industry. It's not going anywhere. So then the dentist asks the ADA, can't you fix the PPO problems, because I'm not making any money on them? I'm cost shifting from my fee-for-service patients to my PPO patients. And the ADA says, well, you entered a contract. That's between you and the insurance company, and we don't have anything to do with that. Oh, that's so irritating.
But the question is, when the dentist is paying these dues for the American Dental Association, they're under the assumption that they have an advocate or somebody who is willing to fight or represent them when these problems arise. And they're the valid concerns that these offices have, not random one-off things that don't really matter to these practices.
Isn't it funny how we've tried to help out over a dozen states and we've seen how little the states know, the associations, the executives, let alone the leadership, the president-elect, the people that just want, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm going to call you out. You just want a plaque on the wall. Look at what I did. And we ask them these questions, like, what about your state laws? What about your state insurance commissioner? Do you understand that you can teach your dentist in your state how to push back and actually be more profitable with PPO contracts? And these association leaders are full speed ahead nowhere. It's been clearly evident to us that they do not understand the state laws, which is another thing. I'm getting ahead of myself. I know, hon. I know it's on our little topic list, but how many 44, 46 states have non-covered services laws?
46. The ADA just came out with a summary of states, and if I remember rightly, it's in the 46 range, plus or minus one or two.
Yeah. And so it's like they pass these non-covered services laws. So if a service isn't covered, you can charge either your fee-for-service fee or at least the contracted fee. And the insurance company can say you have to write it off, but you need to know that you can say, is this a covered service? And they say, well, you're supposed to write it off. This is what happens in the conversation. And you say, but is it a covered service? What are you trying to ask?
Well, we consider it to be inclusive. Well, it doesn't matter. Is it covered or is it not?
Is it covered under the plan? Mm-hmm. And then they have to tell you the truth. And then they almost always say, no,
it's not covered, but you should write it off.
And then it's like, no, it's the patient's responsibility. Hence the reason that these non-covered laws are passed in the states. And yet I'm going to say very few associations, but as of today, Tracy and I have not found one state association that teaches the dentist how to apply non-covered services laws. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I agree. And this is at the point where I challenge each of these dentists that are listening, as well as office managers, hopefully up in the front, or anybody involved with really the insurance companies and billing. You need to look at your state law and figure out, what does my state law say about non-covered services? What is the definition of a covered service? Because it does vary by state, and that's very important that you know what your rights are.
So then I wonder, why am I paying my dues? Of course, I've been wondering that question for umpteen years, but Then the associations, the state associations, they'll emerge with a bunch of BS and little to nothing is ever done. They'll sit there. Oh, we understand your plight. Oh, we've my favorite. Oh my gosh, my favorite was who was it? Was it the ADA president said, oh, we have passed similar laws to House Bill 359 in Utah.
So we actually had one of our clients
That's what it was.
Go up to the new ADA president saying, we need to pass the Utah bundling law, House Bill 359, in our state. Why are you not helping with this? And the new ADA president responded, oh, we've passed multiple laws just like that. Well, obviously, she doesn't know quite yet what those non-covered laws are, what the bundling law is that we passed here, because there was a lot of confusion. And this is where I also would challenge the ADA president. Know the state laws. You're an advocate, or you're supposed to be an advocate for these doctors. You need to know about these laws and what they mean.
Well, as we quickly discovered, the state of Washington, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, New Mexico, Colorado. I know I'm leaving some out. No, their executives don't know what the crap the law means, nor how to apply it, nor how to teach all of you how to apply it. So then all this BS crap emerges from the associations doing little to nothing to help us combat business profitability. So then you guys get all frustrated, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to just join a DSO. I was reading a pretty fun little script in the, I follow on Facebook, Dental Disrupt Nation. Guy's pretty fun. I love to see little excerpts put out there by them. And we follow, Tracy and I follow a bunch of, the Office Manager Networking Group, the Utah Dental Networking Group. We follow a bunch of groups. And so I see this post, and thank goodness for the dentists out there in Dental Disrupt Nation. This one guy was thinking of selling to a DSO, and he's like, and they're like, do you realize what the contracts are? Do you realize that you're tied in for 3 to 5 years? Do you realize that if you drop in performance, you lose money like crazy? All these things that nobody points out, but they love to talk about EBITDA. You'll get 5 to 7 times your EBITDA. And this guy's EBITDA at the current time is like 600,000. So let's say he gets 3.5 million for his $3.5 million practice. But in 3 to 5 years, he's going to lose all of his write-offs, the majority of his tax deductions, because the corporation's going to be able to take those now.
What I love is when the corporations try to say, oh, well, you have autonomy when you work with us. Well, no, you have no control over your materials, your products, technology that you might need to purchase. That's a big lie.
The thing is Tracy and I see this on the front line with these DSOs all day, every day. We get multiple calls a week. How do I get out of this DSO crap? And it's like, I'm sorry, wait till your contract's over. And then they realize how much money they've lost over a 5-year contract with the DSO. And the guy could sell his 3.5 million practice for $2 million because he's lost over 1.5 million just in tax deductions and write-offs. It's unbelievable. So then the dentists, what happens now in this vicious cycle, the dentist lowers the standards of happiness again and again and again and again. What do I mean? Well, every time you're not profitable on a procedure, it comes out of your wages, doc. Every time you have to give your team a raise, it comes out of your wages. If there is not built-in profitability by procedure, you're screwed. So the vicious cycle continues to happen over and over. I've seen this cycle multiple times over the last 30 years. And it's like, our notorious leaders will say, well, as the economy improves, after we get out of this Biden economics crap and, the things stabilize and interest rates, get up more under control again, and inflation is the killer. So no, just as people pointed out, and this is what's fun, is it's the two younger generations that jumped on the bandwagon of this economical run that the current administration's been flowing. They're starting to realize just how screwed they've been. And they're now starting to jump ship over into another political party because they realize, wow, I've made a bad decision here. I don't care. So it's like, and the comment that they've all made that I've been reading on the groups, on LinkedIn and everywhere, with some of our more liberal friends is, I've noticed the prices aren't coming down. Seems like the prices are never going to come down. Are my wages ever going to catch up? Sound familiar, Doc? Go on.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking about how even when they notice that that's happening, for some reason, they can't bring themselves to increase their fees.
Oh, my gosh, honey, that is the point right there. There's a vicious cycle right there. Mm-hmm. You guys have got to increase your fees. You got to, and we know how. That's what our mantra is. We know how to make you profitable. And it's like, why don't you? It's okay to charge your patients for the services you provide. You're not gouging them or nickel and diming them. This is how do you get your wages up to where they should be? So along the Rocky Mountain states and multiple other states across the Midwest and in the East and the South, how do you get your wages up to where they should be? Because you're a small business owner, you've got to fund everything from your health care to your retirement. How do you get your wages up to that point where you can live the lifestyle that you thought you were going to live, or at least be able to enjoy life somewhat? And again, that standard lowers, that happiness lowers again and again to the point where so many dentists are very disgruntled. A lot of dentists are jumping ship and going into other occupations. So that's the problem. And then it's the office manager extraordinaire that controls the practice, because it goes into our next topic that we want to talk about, and that's leadership. Mm-hmm. People make decisions not business-based. Dentists allow their office managers and other team members to rule the roost. And in our advanced dental business training, this is where we squash it. We teach leadership concepts. I mean, if you want to start today, for heaven's sakes, go read The Energy Bus. Doc, just follow the principles of The Energy Bus, and you're going to be 25% of the way there. It's like, it just is mind-blowing to me that we as dentists allow front office team members who have no bachelor's in business, let alone an MBA, not even an associate's in business, and even the ones that have degrees in business do not know how to apply those business principles they learned in their formal training in the dental arena because we've conditioned our patients to have free dentistry for so long. So we lack leadership in our team, in leading with financial profitability and teaching our patients, taking the time to teach our patients what the truth is about PPO plans and how you're billing is the right way to bill, the correct way to bill, and being paid fairly for what you do. And if you don't believe you're paid fairly for what you do, the patient will never believe it either. And you'll continue to condition them to have free dentistry. I hope I'm making sense there. Do you have anything to add to that, sweetheart?
I think you just said everything that was going through my mind.
So leadership, that was point 2. Next one was perio. And periodontal therapy, oh my gosh. I have taken a lot of arrows in my back, especially from periodontists, because I'm sorry. I come from medical. When we treated infection, we eradicated the infection from the body. Whoever had it, you eradicate it. You throw everything at it. You do it aggressively, and you charge for what you do. So most of you out there in the Rocky Mountain states treat periodontal disease to the tune of right around $1,500, $1,800. When we treat periodontal disease, we're treating it to the tune of between $4,000 and $6,000, depending on the severity. But we know how to eliminate it. And now some of you out there are going, well, once you have perio, you always have perio. Really? You need to be up to date on, I don't know, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Yale University, the Coyce Institute. How about common sense?
Well, and here's the thing. If we are going to be treating perio the way the insurance companies want us to treat perio, then yeah, they're going to have forever perio.
They're going to have, supervised neglect.
Supervised
forever,
neglect. And doesn't it say
for
perio
eternity.
Maintenance? Aren't you maintaining the infection then?
Yeah. How much bleeding do you think is permissible in your mouth? Doc, hygienist, any team member? What amount of bleeding do you think should be in your mouth? That's the question.
And that's a great example right there is in the news what happened with that football player.
I know. Have you guys followed the football player? I can't remember what team he was playing on. I'm sorry, it's not in front of me, but it came out that a football player died of infection in the mouth, and they covered periodontal disease and how he had periodontal disease in addition to other decay, but it attacked the gum tissue and went into, I can't remember which one got him, heart, lungs, or brain. But then we have a patient east of Salt Lake City in a small town who died of periodontal disease. It attacked his heart pretty hard, but it got his lungs. The lungs went down.
And this is the one that was interesting to me, though, because this guy had perio. His general dentist did perio maintenance, just like a lot of offices will do. So that infection remained in there. Then he went and had some teeth removed. I'm assuming due to being loose. So his anterior,
they were infected.
The infection, yeah. And then from there, I want to say within 1 to 2 weeks, but he was not sent home with antibiotics even.
No, let's not give him antibiotics. And I'm sorry, folks, but multiple physicians and a couple oral surgeons have hammered down on the this is in the news. So the University of Utah Dental Clinic and the ER up there in the city of Heber, it's going to be an interesting outcome to see what happens with that legally. But it's very unfortunate because the person was not treated how he should have. He wasn't. He should have been treated for the infection.
Well, and then again, that streptococci bacteria.
Yeah.
Why is it not staying in the mouth?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's and we're seeing other people. I mean, we have other examples of people. We've been tracking them. People have died from periodontal disease. And again, we all know it's nothing to mess with.
And I really want these offices to stop and really think about how they're treating these infections and how they're catering to insurance, but they're risking their practice and they're risking a malpractice lawsuit, really, because I feel that we're really going to see this more often. Which
we've seen a couple of them, and they're ugly, and there's been a lot of payout on these, too bad we can't get good old Dr. Angar from Professional Insurance Exchange here to talk on this one, because he would be yelling right now and probably swearing at the same time, because that guy has seen it all. He was the attorney, in fact, for PIE, and it's like unbelievable, but it needs to be treated more aggressively. So perio, when treated more aggressively, not to insurance dictates or perceived insurance dictates or perceived insurance limitations, you can eliminate the infection in the patients. And that's just factual. So if you guys want to learn how to do that, there's happy to teach you guys that. We do teach that in the team training. And the hygienists that go through our training, they're like, the ones that follow the protocol to exactness, and the doctors don't get involved in holding back any of the therapy, which we've seen a couple of times. The hygienists and offices that have gone for this 100%, they are blown away. In fact, I've had multiple docs say, Rob, you've got to publish papers on this stuff. And I tell all the docs, if I had time, I would. Why don't we co-publish it? You write it up, and I'll give you all the data. So it's kind of fun. So there's perio. Perio's crazy. Profitability is our next topic, and it's just short. Needless to say, dentists are not profitable on procedures. And they set their fees based on fee surveys and not on direct operating costs per hour to run the procedure.
You look at two doctors and maybe they're right next to each other. One doctor who maybe is investing in enhanced technologies and materials and techniques and using products that go above and beyond, that DOC will be increased compared to the doctor who's doing everything on the cheap. And so you have to realize that your overhead is based on what you purchase and those technologies and those techniques, but you can't compare your fees to the person right across the street, especially when you know that their quality might be a little bit less.
And I don't know if I dare go into, we talk about the doctor's wages, but what about the team's wages? I want to talk just about wages really quickly. And that is, I think we're still the mindset, many dentists are of the mindset that assistants here upon the Rocky Mountain States, hey, if they're making $16 to $18 an hour, that's just fine and dandy. But I don't think you can, I think a livable wage is between 18 and 20 bucks an hour baseline with commissions on top of that. But here's what's fun, you guys, is we pay our hygienist almost like an associate. And when you pay your team to not miss stuff, not overdiagnose, there's a big difference, but
Huge
not
difference.
To miss stuff, it's major difference. And when they actually can tackle patient care in a way that they've been trained to, I'm speaking of the hygienist specifically, when they're able to take care of patients, they're able to make a lot more. And I will just say this, the average hygienist in the state of Utah is between $40, $42 an hour. Our hygienists are typically double that. We do have some record breakers per hour. Yeah, that's right, 123, 130. We just ran one hygienist and she hit 160 an hour, right on the money. And I'm like, the thing is she had a lot of perio patients. I have a really healthy practice, but for some reason people lately have been coming in and they're bleeding and pocketing and bone destruction like crazy. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what's going on, but we've seen a lot of that. But when they're actually paid to take care of the patient and treat them how they've been trained to and eliminate the infection that's causing the periodontal disease, keep in mind, you can't eliminate the destruction, but can you eliminate the disease? And what causes the disease? Infection.
Well, and I always tell people, I was pregnant 17 years ago, and I still have those effects of being pregnant, but I'm not pregnant anymore.
God, that's a good way to put it.
But this is where I think what I've noticed, Rob, is I've noticed new patients coming in from other practices with existing perio, and we've been treating it aggressively, and they've looked at us like, well, I didn't know it was this bad. And when they understand the infections and the effects of it and they're educated, they are more than happy to commit time and money to take care of this because they want to be healthy. We need to be more clear when it comes to talking to our patients and not tiptoeing around what really is happening with these patients.
Tracy, I think you got some deep pockets as opposed to shallow pockets.
You need a deep
I'm calling
cleaning.
out these measurements of millimeters, and I think you're going to need more of a detailed car wash on your teeth, and we call it a deep cleaning as opposed to a shallow cleaning. Oh my God, people.
Well, and we even had your mother-in-law even did that last summer.
Yeah.
She was having her work done at another out of state because she lives out of state, and she was told she needed
to do a deep cleaning. It was going to cost a lot of money out of pocket, and actually wasn't too much, but to her it was for a deep cleaning. And she calls me and says, Tracy, I don't want a deep cleaning. I want a regular cleaning. I'm not paying that much money for a deep cleaning. They never mentioned infection. They never mentioned periodontal disease. It's ridiculous.
So she comes down here. We look at her. She's diagnosed with periodontal disease, and we called the office up there and said, can you please explain it differently? And they were like, oh, never thought about explaining it like that before. We have a whole, we describe it how medical would describe it, not how dental describes it. And so they're like, wow, where'd you hear about that?
Well, and I
medical.
Hope that when you start hearing these things with what's happening with these patients who have perio and how this infection is attacking the body, I want you to stop and look at these patients like they're your own family. Don't you want to tell them how serious it is? Why are you afraid to be honest with them?
I think we saw an article written that said, oh my gosh, finally periodontal disease is getting more attention, especially after the football player died.
Mm-hmm.
But even after we've had a couple incidents here in Utah and a couple in other states, somebody made a comment in one of the networking groups that was like, oh, maybe periodontal disease is going to start getting more attention. People are going to start to understand it better, but we're the ones not teaching it. And we're the ones that should be on the front line teaching about the infection, and we eliminate the infection. Our patients no longer have bleeding on probing. The pockets 9.5 times out of 10 reduced back to healthy pockets again. And the first thing comes out of the patient's mouth at the end of treatment when I go in there to check on them, I feel better. I have more energy.
I have more energy.
That's the phrase that we hear all the time, have more energy. And then my favorite right after that, could this infection have been causing me to be lethargic? I just look at him like, no shit, Sherlock. It's exactly,
wait, are we allowed to say that?
I don't know. I think I just did.
But you know what?
But you do with the patient, and you've got to tell the patient, yes, infection being circulated in your bloodstream, that causes you to have weakness. It causes you to not have the kind of strength that you normally have when you don't have an infection floating around. Therefore, we're taking care of the patient, their overall health. What a concept.
What I think, honestly, I expect the insurance companies to get more offices trying to bill how they think that they should be billing. And the insurance companies are going to very quickly make changes to their contracts because perio is more money than a regular prophy. And so it's going to be interesting to see the combination of patients pushing back, saying, I want this treated aggressively. Insurance companies, you need to pay. And at the same time, the insurance companies trying to handle shareholders' demands with profits. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've already seen Cigna and Aetna trying to change the requirements on their end.
Oh my gosh.
For pocket depths, right? To be up to 6 millimeters.
6 millimeters.
6 millimeters before they will pay for SRP. And we've even seen up in the Northwest an insurance company tell doctors that if it doesn't meet those requirements, it's not payable and it's not billable to the patient. So now these offices are at risk of being sued for malpractice because they're not treating the infection according to their training of 4 millimeters. But at the same time, I can't expect them to do free dentistry.
4 millimeters, bleeding on probing, and radiographic bone destruction. That's what's got to be present for the diagnosis of periodontal disease to be there. And of course, we do other tests, which many of you know about, and some of you do routinely, which you should because medical does that, but we won't get into those. But we're able to diagnose periodontal disease based on clinical findings and lab tests. What a concept, just like medical does. The next one I want to talk about, and I'm going to tiptoe on this one,
yes,
Trace, because I'm going to tiptoe it in this way. Many of you know that we passed a law here, the Network Leasing, Downcoding, and Bundling Protections Law in the state of Utah. And what's really interesting is, I'm going to say it like this, and you're going to love it, because I've been formulating this in my mind, because we have to be careful how we state this one. One of the state representatives got a letter from a constituent, so a general public person, right? And they said, did you know about this legislation? And then they quoted the scripture and verse on what the legislation was. And they said, what this means is I went into my dentist here. This is in the state of Utah. I went in my dentist, and a filling that normally was
$58
out of pocket is now 100. Was it 100?
Like just over $100.
104.
Yeah.
Something like that. $104 now. And then he listed out each code, and
right next to it, he admitted that these were non-covered codes.
Yeah. And he showed that they took the composite fill, and of course they down coded it to a silver fill.
Yeah.
So it's down coding, but he points out the fact this is unbundling, and there wasn't anything unbundling about this. In fact, everything on there was a CDT code. So this is obviously an office that hasn't been through our training, but this is a dentist that I was actually so proud of. And I hope if this dentist is listening in Utah here, we got like 400 listeners here in Utah. If you are that dentist, I applaud you, and you come through training. Freak. If you call me and you're able to tell me more details on that, I will give you a discount on training. That's how proud I was of this dentist who's been to some of your courses. I think the front office team member must have been to some of your courses, Trace, at the UDA show, or has also come to our courses, our intro courses, because they actually applied Utah law, and they fire the letter at the representative, and they fire the letter against the legislators who passed House Bill 359, and he said, "This is unbundling." And Trace, I kept it very autonomously.
You're doing a good job, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll try to do the same thing. So this is where I kind of am starting to formulate a picture on how this happens, right? So the doctor or a team member shows up to an intro course and realizes, oh my goodness, we can bill for these services.
Okay, time out. This is actually My Practice, My Business, giving these courses on state laws. We're the freak are the associations in doing what we're doing as a private company. The association should be having us lecturing on this 24/7, or at least they should be. But they don't. They instead tell you, drop your insurance plans. That's how you're going to be able to make more money. Just drop them. And then you lose patients. Okay, sorry I interrupted.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
A little commercial interruption. Keep going.
So the doctor finally realizes, oh my goodness, we've been manipulated into not charging for these services we should have been charging for. They actually do a pretty good job, again, for just starting out. And so we're very impressed by what codes were billed out for that service. The patient's upset over the increase.
Two surface posterior composite.
Yeah, just a composite, but they actually made money on the procedure. They were not in the red because of it, I'm sure.
No, they were, no.
Like right.
They were still in the red because it's a composite. I actually ran the numbers. They were still in the red, but at least they were profitable with the hygiene going at the same time.
Yes,
That's the difference. Most people doing composites or hygiene goes at the same time, you're still in the red, you're cost shifting, just so you know. Okay, sorry.
So patient suddenly sees, oh, I have to pay an extra $50. Well, first of all, this is where I get frustrated because you've got an increased cost of goods. We already know that the supply companies have said that there has been an increase in the cost of goods, a substantial amount over the last couple of years. So there's one.
Well, we know that's between 20 and 25% increase from all the major supply chains.
So given that fact alone, the doctor should be increasing the fees. So the patient should be paying more regardless. Secondly, patient gets upset. Patient reaches out. Now, this is where the office is just a little bit confused as to which law was actually used during this. These were non-covered codes, which actually falls under our state's non-covered law. It has nothing to do with our bundling law that we passed.
And the patient's confused.
Now, so they now think it's bundling.
They think it's House Bill 359.
Yeah.
They think it's the network leasing down coding bundling protections law that the legislators passed a couple of years ago.
So what does the patient do? They call their insurance company. And of course, the insurance company is going to want to look really good to this patient. They don't want to lose the patient. They don't want to admit that those services are not covered. And so what do? They tell the patient, well, your doctor's doing what's called unbundling. Yeah. I guarantee you that's what happens.
That's exactly what the insurance company would have had to have said to him. Yeah, because
that letter,
he had that verbiage written in that letter.
It was down. And so this is where I say, good job, doc, for holding your ground. I wish more doctors would do that, actually. And secondly, I kind of have to chuckle a little bit because this patient obviously thinks they have more power than they really do.
Well, and yet, sweetheart, we're empowering our patients to have free dentistry.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're afraid to charge for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We think they're going to leave. We think they're going to, raise a ruckus. They're going to turn us into the insurance company, which is what this patient, I believe, reading between the lines, tried to do to the dental office
and failed.
And they failed.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's somebody else's fault that they had to pay $104 out of pocket instead of $58. It's somebody else's fault that they have to pay for the dentistry they received.
It's somebody else's fault that they picked the plan.
God, it's like, yeah, it's just unbelievable. But it actually fell under the non-covered services laws.
It had nothing to do with it. And so that's why, again, if you're in Utah, know the difference between these two laws. If you're outside of the state, use this as a great example of looking at these codes and asking the insurance companies, are these covered codes under the patient's plan? Because again, the state law trumps contract. Now, there are exceptions to the rules, and we've mentioned it before, but if it's a federal plan, ERISA plan, self-funded plan.
Yeah.
Now, we're watching. We haven't really heard too much information from the American Dental Association.
This is...
They're working on it. All right.
Here we go.
Okay.
I'm going to put a plug in for the ADA. This is one thing they've been working on for, 7 years now, to actually have a non-covered service law that's federal that would apply towards all the federal plans, self-funded plans, Medicare, Medicaid. If they get that passed through Congress and Senate, then that's going to be even more powerful for us to be paid more fairly for the services we provide instead of giving them away and cost shifting it on to other patients.
And that is called the Docs Act. So for those of you who want to look at that and press the ADA to really fight for this law, it's the
Dental Optometrics
Care Act. Yeah. So definitely reach out, because that's the biggest thing that I'm noticing is insurance companies are trying very hard to move over to self-funded or federal plans. I mean, just look at the Medicare surge right now. They fall under federal law when they change like this. And the problem we're having, and well, not in our office, but we're seeing other offices experience is let's say an insurance company that falls under federal deems that a service is not medically necessary, or the prognosis is poor, or even though it's not covered, they consider it inclusive. You can appeal it. And there's a high likelihood they're going to stand their ground, because there's no oversight when it comes to your state insurance commissioner's office. There is an entity that is supposed to be in charge of overseeing these federal plans. I've not seen much happen when the complaints move forward to that department. I think it's just a lack of bandwidth. So if we can get the American Dental Association to push for this law to be put into effect very quickly, now we have the ability to hold these guys accountable, especially for non-covered services.
So just so all of you understand this, they got the McCarran-Ferguson Act overturned, and they spent millions and millions of dollars doing that. The non-covered service law would have had the McCarran-Ferguson Act has no impact on any of us, hardly at all whatsoever. And they don't want to say that. They want to say, oh, this is a good thing because, now the insurance companies can't collude and they fall under antitrust and whatever. But the insurance companies already have the workaround around that. Tracy and I have talked about that ad nauseum. But here's the thing. The non-covered services laws, if they would have put the same amount of effort into that as they did McCarran-Ferguson, that would have affected dentists across the nation positively. And maybe the association numbers wouldn't continue to drop. Mm-hmm. Maybe dentists would go, gosh, maybe my association is doing something for me. And that leads to, on this topic right here, I just want to say that Tracy and I are in the heat of a battle with a major insurance player in a certain part of the country. And this week we will know which direction it's going to go. And we'll just keep you guys informed and posted on that. But it's like, I gotta say, I'm grateful for the California State Dental Association for pushing back hard. They actually did a pretty good job in addition to what we did. And so for California and Utah, you can offer your patient's choice with all the insurance companies out there, i.e. Delta Dental. But here's the interesting thing is all the insurance companies allow you to offer choice. There's only one who's trying
I think we know who that is.
Who's trying to push back and control the quality of care. And I believe, as does Tracy, is going to backfire on them. It's going to backfire real quickly pretty soon. So we'll see what happens. And then I want all of you to know, in conclusion thereof, there's a handful of consultants out there that are trying to teach and do what we do. And they do not have the commensurate achievement that we have here at My Practice, My Business to be teaching you guys how to offer value-added service, how to push back with insurance companies. In fact, a couple of the consultant types out there, the insurance companies have them blacklisted big time. So they don't have relationships. We have relationships with the insurance companies. And Does
that mean that we love them?
No, it's a love-hate relationship, but keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Well, and that's the thing, if you're just honest and you ask the right questions and you create relationships with these provider relations specialists, they're going to be forthcoming with thoughts behind why they do what they do, and working together, especially with conflict resolution with these reps. Sometimes you can't come to an agreement, but at least you know where they stand.
And then you know how to push back. You know which direction to go. And I think that the thing that's tough for us is when some offices go down the road of wanting to be profitable. They think our tuition is too high. They go with a cheaper firm. You get what you pay for, but don't call us and ask us to bail you out, which so many have done. We don't have the bandwidth. We are taking care of our clients, and we are taking care of those who put their trust in us, in what we know about and what we know how to do, because we are on the forefront of this stuff constantly. We know the state laws. We know the insurance contracts. We know what can and can't be done. And I pray that all of you, go down the road to learn business principles from people with commensurate achievement. That's my key point, that I've just seen too many of our colleagues are getting burned by so-called consultants out there that think they know what they're doing. And they're trying their best, but they just don't.
I think what I love, and I am going to do a little bit of a comparison here. What I love about what we do is we investigate before we move forward with what we do and what we teach. We make sure that we go to the sources. And what I found is you and I have found this really great niche of how do you go about working with PPO plans in a way that you're still profitable. And this mindset is drastically different than a lot of the other consultants. And I'm thinking of one in particular, and I'm just going to say, look at the history of any potential consultant that you're working with. If they've gone in many different directions throughout the course of their career, instead of staying the path like we have, if you see that they're saying, oh, well, I'll negotiate with the insurance companies for you. Oh, you know what? Just drop them now. Or you should do an in-house plan. You know what? Let's learn this new deal. And they're going in so many different directions that they're invalidating the previous teachings that they gave. I think that's a big red flag.
This is why we've actually worked with a couple people like in Fortune Management.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll use their name because Fortune has, there's good and bad in every entity. And they have, most of their people teach really good protocols.
Yes, absolutely.
Business protocols that really help offices out. There's a lot of good consultants out there that will help teach protocols. But if those protocols are crammed schedules and
bar charts.
Yeah.
Fill in the bar charts with your goals.
Yeah. Teach you to bill out your fee-for-service fee instead of your actual negotiated contracted fee, hooking them to each patient, just stuff like that. If they don't teach solid business principles, question it. It's like I just question everything. Just that's why we are, to wrap it up this year, Tracy and I have a couple bits of legislation that we are working on, and one of them that you guys are very familiar with in the state of Utah is a particular insurance company telling you've got 90 days to file a submission. And we now
not acceptable.
Yeah, so it looks like we're going to win that battle. You're going to have back up to a year. And
the second one, which I am actually very, very happy that it was raised, the awareness was raised on this one, is the dispensing of medication in the office. For some reason, dentists were removed from this or not listed as dispensing providers in the state of Utah. And so that's something that we are definitely pursuing.
And so we're kind of snooping out other states to see if dentists have been listed. And I hate to tell you guys this, but there's a couple other states where the dentists were left off the list too that we've been made aware of.
So we're all kind of breaking the law right now, aren't we?
If dentists in those states
you're administering lidocaine
and antibiotics and
apparently we can't be doing that
stuff. Yeah, so it's like they have to go to the neighborhood drugstore and get from the pharmacist their lidocaine. Then they'll bring it to you for you to administer it
that is the weirdest thing.
There's a difference between administering and dispensing. So there's things like this that we keep a track on, we work on behalf of you, of all of you out there. Tracy and I have talked about this multiple times. We wish that more associations were proactive. We wish more association executives and leadership actually knew their state laws, actually knew how to be more of an advocate to their constituents, the dentists who are paying those dues. We got some interesting stuff coming up that you're going to hear about in the next this first quarter of this year. That's going to be kind of fun, and it's going to call a few associations out. But we'll keep you posted on that and let you kind of just wonder what we're talking about. Some of you already know, but yeah.
Well, and you're absolutely right, Rob. I'm really excited about the first quarter of 2024. We have a lot going on. Obviously, we're finishing up we're starting this advanced training in Kona, Hawaii, and everybody's going to be popping in on Sunday night. We'll be training them hard and also playing a little bit on the side as well.
We have a full house again this year, and we hit our maximum amount of people that we can take out there, and then again, for those of you who are interested in the training, this facility is amazing. And I'm so proud to be able to open our doors on January 18th when we start seeing our patients and the technology side that has intertwined with patients as well as popping over to the training side. Just the way that we've transitioned and worked so well with our patients who are really proud that they get to be involved with the education of these dental practices and the way that we're able to now train in a way that's seamless. We can handle more people. It's very exciting right now. It's really exciting. And Trace, I love your essential front office training. That is something that every dental office needs. We throw these wonderful people in our front office and expect the world out of them. And nobody has trained them. They've learned from someone who's learned from someone who learned from the Sunday school teacher in their local church. And you guys have heard me make that joke over and over again. Mm-hmm. But that's who's trained them. And they learn from the school of hard knocks, and they don't get the basic training that they need to be able to tackle insurance problems, EOBs, to help make you profitable, doc. And we actually go into the state laws in that essential training so that they know how to push back on the insurance companies instead of getting walked all over. Comes down to the one thing I'm going to come back to: leadership. Mm-hmm. I know I said we were winding down this podcast like 15 minutes ago, but it's like it comes down to leadership, doc. Everybody, I want leaders, not followers. I want people who are willing to lead and take ownership of what they do in my practice, and my team knows that. And it's my energy bus. And I know the direction I want my bus going. And if people don't want to enjoy the energy that's on the bus, if they're energy suckers, they're off my bus. Yep. I just open the door and say, even if it hurts, even if it's like takes me a while to find somebody new, we all have to work a little harder because we're missing that employee that picks up a lot of slack. It's better to have people who have positive attitudes and have energy on their own bus. And we want people with those tickets. And
my challenge this year is don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of team members that try to bully you into backing off when you know what the right thing to do is. Don't back up. Don't be afraid of pushing back with these insurance companies. We need to realize what our rights are. And the more educated you are on your rights, the more confident you'll be when you do stand your ground. You want to attract the patients who believe what you believe as well. And don't be afraid to get rid of those patients who also are trying to take advantage of your practice.
Exactly. Guaranteed training. That's what we have. I know it just like ticks a lot of consultants off. If you don't make income, we don't either. Mm-hmm. If you do not make new, fresh income off of underutilized codes that you've never known you could charge before, that's how we get paid, 20% of that increase.
Up until tuition is paid.
And then after that, you got a big whopping $199 a month or $299 a month if you've been through the advanced training and you have both our softwares. So, and that's the advanced training, My Dental Stats. It's a statistical dashboard that you have never seen in dentistry before. Every office will be trained on it here in this next week. It blows their mind because it protects the practice. Doc, it protects you from fraud and embezzlement. It protects the employees from not being accused of a fraud and embezzlement.
Helps with insurance negotiations.
Helps with insurance, hugely insurance negotiations. And it shows you profitability per procedure right down to the penny, just like we see in aviation, right down to the penny on every aircraft that's flown. That's how we need to be looking at our businesses. And that's what we love doing. That's why Tracy and I love teaching what we teach. Do you love what you do, hon?
I love what I do.
It's a lot of fun.
It's so funny because people will look at both of us and say, you work with your spouse? And I'll say, yeah, it's the best ever.
I pay her a lot to say that. No, we're blessed. We enjoy working with each other and it's fun. We come up with new ideas and new ways to approach things, and that helps out everybody in the profession. We love you guys. We appreciate you, all of you who have been through our training, and hope to see the hundreds of you that listen to our podcast. We hope you do come through training, pull that trigger, and
see some great success for 2024.
Till then, you guys have a great first part of your new year, and we'll be on podcasts as we do 1 to 2 a month, and we'll see you hopefully at a future training. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you for being with us today. Since 2006, My Practice, My Business has been teaching dentists and their teams business skills, dental insurance contractual protocols, and state laws governing how to profitably bill patients fairly for the need-based services they provide. What's more, we guarantee our training, unlike other dental consulting companies in the industry. Simply stated, if you don't increase your net revenue, we don't get paid. We call it dental consulting the way it should be. We believe there's never been a more important time than now for dentists to experience and implement our key methods, knowledge, and business training within their dental practices. To learn more about our guaranteed, no-risk clinical business of dentistry training that is changing dental practices for the better, just go to our website, mypracticemybusiness.com, and surf our pages for additional information about our company and the services we provide. When you're ready, give us a call and get scheduled for the most profitable dental business training that you will ever experience. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you again and have a fantastic day.